Hello to you all. First of all, I would like to say that I am Marco Sampaio, the current president of the World Association of Veterinary Anatomists. It's a pleasure to have you here. I have no camera. Just a minute. Okay. Then I am Marco Sampaio, the current president of the World Association of Veterinary Anatomists. It's a pleasure to have you here. Despite the different time zones attending the first WAVA meeting, as you know, WAVA members had always met during meetings of other associations, but this time, due to the pandemic crisis, ironically, we had the opportunity to have our own meeting, which is being attended by anatomists and students from 32 countries. Considering this, we realize that a crisis is also a time for new opportunities and a great field for new ideas. And it's exactly the aim of this meeting, where we can share our experience and expectations concerning teaching veterinary anatomy in these difficult times. I would like to thank you, Dr. Robert Henry, our former WAVA president and current treasurer, who will be the chairperson with me, the scientific committee, and the students who are working in our technical support. I also thank the invited speakers, the ones who sent abstracts for oral presentations, and the attendants. So, to avoid wasting time, let's begin. Then, it's my pleasure to introduce, for the first presentation, Professor Claudia Vosrein, Associate Professor of Utrecht University from Netherlands, and also President of the European Association of Veterinary Anatomists. Claudia, it's your time. You can open your microphone in your screen. Claudia?
Yes, I'm here. The problem is that the screen now is away.
Okay.
Which was working in a minute. Just okay. Oh, this is a nice one. I don't see my screen anymore, so I just do it differently. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear and I can see your presentation.
And you can see my presentation as well?
Yes.
Okay, because I can't see it myself, so that's a nice situation we're having here. Well, thank you for the nice introduction, and thank you for pronouncing my name right. And thank you very much for the opportunity for organizing this and for giving us the opportunity to share our ideas, show what we come from. But let's not forget that it's a very sad occasion why we are having the first WAVA meeting, and my thoughts are with those who are or were suffering from the disease or who lost loved ones and friends and family members. Well, let's go to work then. Yeah, we had to change over the weekend as well. Do you see, sorry but do you see my next slide?
Yes.
Yes?
You can see the presentation mode.
Yeah. Okay. We had to change over the weekend, as the majority of us all had to, and that turned us on. We got in the fight, flight, fright mode, and that's how we did. And what I first will show you are the things that we did the past couple of months, and then I will go over the real title of the presentation, the dissection of the learning outcomes, so how should we proceed further. So we did more or less face-to-face teaching, and we used Microsoft Teams mostly. We have this content management system, Blackboard. I'm still using that. And could, when possible, and that was especially for our master students, postpone the practical part. So we had quite some master student teaching, fourth-year students. And what we basically did was split the teaching into a theoretical part, which was offered through Microsoft Teams, and knowing that somewhere in summertime, we at that time hoped, but in the meantime we've done that, give
Good morning to everybody. We're glad to have you here. And for those of you this afternoon and evening, good evening also. We are extremely happy to welcome you to the first annual, hopefully, virtual meeting of the World Veterinary Anatomists. And we are happy to have you here. This is, I might say, is one of the few best things of the virus. We get to meet and explore virtual items this morning, and we're so happy to have you here with us. And we will have a series of 5 lectures, and then we'll have questions and answers. I want to thank Dr. Sampaio for instigating and arranging this interesting program. We met last weekend, and so this is a continuation of our meeting last weekend. So with that, we will start our first presentation, and it's with Dr. Mahendra Tomar from India. And we're happy to have his presentation about online teaching of veterinary anatomy during COVID-19, lockdown, impact, and efficacy. Dr. Tomar, please.
Thanks, Dr. WAVA, for introducing me.
So go ahead. You'll have 15 minutes. Thank you.
Are you getting this slide?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So first about I am Dr. P.S. Tomar from India. And today I would like to discuss about the online teaching of veterinary anatomy during COVID-19 lockdown, the impact and the efficacy. First, about to introduce this, as we all know that entire world is suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Here, one of the most affected part of the life is the teaching learning process. All the educational institutions throughout the world, they have implemented online classes. But in biological sciences, as we all know, that hands-on practical training is very important. But in the discontinuity of the classes results in an abrupt halt in transfer of knowledge and skills with many unexpected and unplanned challenges, especially for the developing countries. Therefore, in this connection, our university started online teaching for both theoretical as well as the practical classes in various courses of veterinary science. Here in this we can see the graph of the cumulative cases of the COVID-19. First photograph is showing about the world. Here this blue line is showing the trend in India. As we can all notice that it is continuously increasing. This is the second photograph is showing about the trend of the COVID cases in India. Here we can see continuously increasing graph, and because of some states they are doing well, so it is about to get flattened, but still it is increasing. And the third graph is showing the present condition in Andhra Pradesh, the state where I am working. The background of veterinary anatomy in India and AP, if we talk about, here all the courses of the veterinary sciences controlled by the Veterinary Council of India, which makes the veterinary anatomy course divided into 4+3 credit hours, that is 4 theory and 3 practical classes per week. In our university, that is Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University, Tirupati, we are having 3 veterinary colleges, and where we have 75 students in each college. And these 75 students of each college, we have divided for the practical purposes into 3 batches of 25 students each. The COVID-19 lockdown was started on 25th March 2020. After some time, we have planned and we started the theory online classes on 9th April 2020 with the hope that after some time the situation will come under control. But when the trend was going on in the same manner, then finally we have started the online practical classes on 26th July of 2020. The course content which was left incomplete before the lockdown, in theory we were having the histology and the embryology portions left, whereas in practical we were having the gross anatomy of hind limb, organs of pelvic cavity, histology and embryology incompleted. The method what we have followed for the present study was a Google online student survey to obtain their feedback. This survey was conducted on the undergraduate veterinary anatomy students of Sri Venkateswara Veterinary University, Tirupati. For the level of satisfaction, we have graded them into 1 to 5, as 1 is the minimum and 5 being the highest. We have received total 112 responses, and then we have gone through the statistical analysis for the outcome. Here the topography of India as well as the Andhra Pradesh, we can see this is the location of India in the world. Then in India, it comes toward the southern east coastal area, and in this map we can see almost entire state is just beside the coastal line. And here in Bay of Bengal, throughout the year, weather and the meteorological disturbances are very common. For example, the storms are coming, sometimes the tsunami kind of things are coming, sometimes the heavy rains, heavy winds, which interferes with the power and the internet supply. So in our state, we were having more problem towards the connectivity. Then we have prepared a questionnaire which was entitled as the impact and the efficacy of the online teaching of veterinary anatomy during COVID-19 lockdown. Apart from the demographic questions, the main content was like how many theory lectures you have attended during COVID-19 lockdown, similar question for the practical lectures. And here the response was divided into less than 10, 10 to 20, or more than 20. Then the satisfaction level for the theory teaching as well as for the practical teaching was having response from the grade 1 to grade 5. 5 means the maximum satisfaction. Then, since I already told that we are having the coastal line and most of the meteorological disturbances are coming in this area, so we have asked the question about the interruption. Here, the options were divided into no interruptions, connectivity, audio, video, power failure, etc. Then, certain questions we have asked regarding the replacement of online lectures with the physical classes, because we don't know on what date we can come in the safer condition because of this recent and the continuously increasing trend of the COVID-19 lockdown. So these questions were having, can online lecture replace classroom theory lecture as well as the practical lecture? The options we gave yes or no. Then what are the suggestions for effective online theory and what are the suggestions for effective online practical lectures? And finally, we asked, do you recommend online practical sessions? Here, this question, we did not ask for like any kind of the discouragement, the efforts we are or our institutions are making. But the thing is to analyze how much hard work we have to do to counteract these situations. In the results, if we talk about, for the first question, like, are you satisfied with online theory teaching? 17% students have given the least satisfaction, whereas highest satisfaction level was found or given by only 0.9% students. It may be because of the connectivity issue that we will discuss in later. Similar trend for the practical teaching, if we see the majority of the students, they were having least satisfaction for the practical online classes. This trend may because of like the 70% syllabus already we have completed in the physical classes, and remaining 30% we were trying to complete in the practical this online sessions. So they may be in comparison between physical and the online classes. So the trend what they have given the least satisfaction is 50.9%, whereas above satisfactory level together we can say it was only 1.8%. Then the question like can online lecture replace classroom theory lectures? Only 25% students said yes, whereas 75% students said no. Similar
We are sorry for this technical problem, but Dr. Tomar will start again from this slide. I think that the broadcast stopped in this slide. And then Dr. Tomar, I'm sorry again, and then you can go on. Okay, thank you.
Is it coming, sir?
Yes.
My screen? Yes, okay. So in the response for the question for do you recommend both online and theory practical classes together, we received the response 18.75% students said yes, we can go for online practical and theory classes, but majority of the students, they have given no response for 81.25% of the students. As I am already saying that this response is because of that they have already experienced the physical classes, so they must be in the comparison between the physical and the online classes. Okay. Then regarding the question, did you experience any interruption? Only 5.4% students, they were suffering from the power failure. That may be because of the meteorological disturbance. Whereas 15.2% students, they told that they have not experienced any interruption. But total 79% students, they were having issue with the poor connectivity and poor audio, which may be again due to the topographical location of the majority of the students. Here, important thing is that because in the urban areas, the cases were increasing tremendously, so most of the students, they prefer to move towards the rural areas where they can be safe from the infection. Then we have received the suggestions and the problems from the student side, as 9% student told because they were having experience of the physical classes, so in online they were unable to concentrate in the classes. 30% of the students, they asked to provide the same notes what we are telling them in the classes that we have provided to them via email. 16% students told that recording of the lecture, online lecture, if we can provide, that will be better than the class what we are taking, because they can able to revise of that one. 25% student told that they need an improvement of the quality of the connectivity, what we have suffered. And the 20% student told, we were taking classes through the PowerPoint presentation, that they did not find that interesting, and they have given some suggestions, and those suggestions included 12% student told, is it better to provide 3D images instead of keeping some photographs in the PowerPoint, because in 3D it gives real or realistic experience what they are feeling, what they are having in the physical classes. 20% students asked to develop some animations so that they can understand, especially this demand was about the embryological classes. The majority of the students, they told for gross anatomy, physical classes are better option instead of the online classes. But for histology and embryology, we can go for the online classes. However, 14% students told that it is better to have some virtual dissection tools, so that at least we can have a feel of doing physical dissection what we have experienced during the physical classes. Then, to counter these all complaints and the problems, what infrastructures we have developed in our institute, it is not about the university, because this infrastructure as a pilot work we have developed in our institution, that is the NTR College of Veterinary Sciences, Gannavaram. Here we have kept the wall-mounted multiple LED monitors in gross anatomy as well as in histology classroom. With the help of this, what we are talking about, we are live telecasting with the help of the HD camera, and it is simultaneously displayed in the LED monitor. And the same specimen we are providing the each table, so that what the teacher is demonstrating can be observed by the student simultaneously. For the histological practical classes, the slide is being explained in micro image projection system, and it is simultaneously displayed in multiple monitors. However, we are also providing them the slides under the microscope. So after understanding in the screen, they can directly observe under the microscope. But these two photographs are before COVID-19. Now, what is our future plan? This is the classroom. Here only one photograph I am showing for the gross anatomy classroom. Similar arrangement is being made in histology also. Here this is the entry gate and the exit, and this is the arrangement of the tables for dissection as well as for the specimen. Here this is the layout. What is our future plan? The students can come through this gate and they will move in unidirectional flow towards the backside. Then at this point, they will be splitting into two groups, one by one. Means first this row, after when this row will be completed, then the more students will be moving and they will be getting settled in this orientation. So in that way, here between two tables, that distance what we are maintaining, that is 2 meters. Within the table where two students are sitting together, this distance is also about 2 meters, so that social distancing can be maintained. But in the second column, if you see here, we have not kept any students because the HDMI control box is in this area. The specimen what we are bringing towards the table, that is also kept in this area. So the attendance movement is more in this area. So we have kept this first table on the right side vacant, just to avoid the chances for reducing the social distancing. Then, in addition, other than that, as most of the students, they asked for the videos to be provided, we have converted one of our department room into the studio, where already we are running the Wild Body program and the human alternatives for laboratories in veterinary education, where the teachers are recording the videos while the practical demonstration of the classes. And these all videos, after certain editing, we are uploading in our YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is Wild Body program Gannavaram AP. However, we could upload only 5 or 6 videos, and after that the lockdown was implemented and we were not having access to our laboratory. So the work what we have started was interrupted in between. This is the link what you can access in YouTube. Either you can search for the name, or I will paste this link into the chat box after my presentation, so you can go through. And we are welcoming for the suggestions or what we can do for the improvisation of this all. Here we can see that how many views and the subscribers are there. Till date we are having 279 subscribers for our channel, and most of the comments are coming in positive. Then another thing what we have developed in our department, that is the models. Like in market, in different institutions, we are having different type of the models, mostly that artificial synthetic resins model or the plastination models or different type of other type of the models also. Here in our department, we have developed these all models with the help of the teak wood. That is a timber tree. That wood we have engraved with the structures. The benefit of this model is they are non-harmful, non-toxic and 100% natural without using any animal body part. And the strength of this wood is very much high, means they are not getting damaged also. And these all models, they are supplied with the index card, so that when the students are having need to revise these things, they can see the model. Here certain numbers are also kept, and accordingly we have given what that number indicates. So till date we have developed these 6 models and still under process. Some other models are under process. And related to this one, we have conducted one workshop. So this is the reference for that. You can find the details of these models in the workshop manual of Wild Body program, what we have published, and it is shared in the research gate with my name and in our project title. Then the conclusion, what suggestions we have received from the students. As I already told that we are having problem with the topographical location and the most of the meteorological disturbances are there. And with the limited tools what we had during these online classes, they have suggested that the adoption of the improvised online tools and techniques might help to meet the emerging challenges, which may include development of the virtual dissections.
Dr. Tomar, 1 minute,
Sir.
please.
This is last slide, sir. So like that, we can go for different virtual tools, different YouTube channels or videos, what we can make for. And with that, we may counter the problem arised because of the situation created by COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tomar, for your nice presentation and the new ideas to have the practical labs with students. And then we can wait for the end of the 2 oral presentations, then we can go to the questions after both, and then we can go to, okay, then we can go to the next presentation, and then we'll have Dr. Laís Werner from Universidade Estadual do Centro-Oeste, Brazil, and she will talk about practical anatomy classes online, how to access learning. Laís?
Here, sharing. All right. That's okay, Doctor?
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks for the introducing me and for the opportunity to share experience at this remarkable event. I'm Laís Werner, professor of veterinary anatomy at Unicentro, who, together with my doctoral advisor Pedro Michelotto from PUC, Paraná, prepared this presentation titled Practical Anatomy Classes, How to Assess Learning, where we bring a brief description of an evaluation method that will be applied to my students at Unicentro. Unicentro is a public university located in the south of Brazil. Campus CBTEC houses the veterinary medicine course and is located in the city of Guarapuava, state of Paraná. The School Life of Science of PUC Paraná is located in the capital of Paraná, about 155 miles from Guarapuava. In our course, 1 new class is admitted per year, starting normally in February, and the division of the course subjects is semi-annual, which with each semester counting with 17 weeks. The disciplines related to gross anatomy are, in the first semester, Veterinary Anatomy 1, in the second, Veterinary Anatomy 2, and the third semester, Topographic Veterinary Anatomy, which in this discipline effectively offers the possibility of dissection to our students. Occasionally, optional subjects such as avian anatomy and anatomy of surgical approach are offered in the 4th and 6th semester respectively. The content covered in the discipline of this report, which is Veterinary Anatomy 1, is basically introduction of anatomy, general terms, osteology, arthrology, myology, angiology, and respiratory apparatus of domestic animals. Usually, the discipline is conducted with 2 hours per week of theoretical classes, 4 hours per week for practical lab classes, and the laboratory is available for students to study 8 hours per day for 5 days per week. The assessment was performed through theoretical and practical exams. With the COVID situation, was interrupted face-to-face classes in March, as well as the access to the laboratory for students. Permission to conduct theoretical and practical classes online was only granted by the university in May. However, in a decision taken by the rector about 2 weeks ago, the practical classes had the validity of being taught online suspended, and they will be concluded only when the face-to-face learning occur. It seems only in the next year. So now, only the execution of theoretical tests and 2 hours per week of lectures are occurring. At the beginning of the remote education, when the practice were possible, I recorded some practical osteology classes and made them available to the students, but as a complementary material, as we will review all the content when the presential classes return. All this adaptation meant the first semester that would end in July ends only in November 11th of this year. The discipline will remain open since the resumption of practical classes and the final assessments will only occur when social detachment finishes. Until then, we'll have to wait. The essential question that motivates differentiated evaluation solution took into account the world situation. Since the world is undergoing a great change as well as the teaching of anatomy. Even though the online modality had previously occurred in several institutions, it is still a challenge, more than ever, for everyone that is involved in the situation. And what can we do? We concluded that the new format would be needed, a COVID format for teaching, as well as students would need to adapt to the COVID format for learning. And in order for all this work fairly and effectively within the whole situation, we decided also adapting the way we evaluate our students. And with that, it was established that the assessment will be applied for rubrics. These rubrics were assembled using Google Sheets, add-ons called co-rubrics, and to work in a way associated with the item, Google Forms were used too. At the first schedule for October, we will apply the rubric to students as a formative assessment tool, so that they know and understand how they will be assessed. Subsequently, when the on-site activities return and the presential classes can be taught, the same rubric will be applied, however, with a summative character of evaluation. In a new spreadsheet, which I named rubric test here in the video, if you already have downloaded this free extension from Google, we find in the add-ons option called co-rubrics. I allow its execution and I confirm the option of creating the generic rubric. And we can see that are 3 tabs in the bottom corner that are created. The tab of the rubric itself, and now the students, sheets, and the teachers, which allows you to launch the students list, include teachers in addition to their mails, to send the rubric directly through the sheet. From the model pre-offered by extension, it is possible to make the necessary changes so that the rubric can be used as evaluation inside the proposal in question. And this edge is the rubric that will be used in our discipline, where students will be evaluated in 3 aspects. The first one on the left is if the student has a capacity in relation to acknowledge anatomic aspects from the anatomical piece. The second one, if the student has the ability to correlate the syntopic position of the piece on the animal's body. And the third one, if the student has ability to correlate the anatomical and clinical aspects of the anatomical piece that is being shown. And based on students' answer, we fit within the performance descriptions that are associated with a given grade. So, for example, if in the practical test, the student was able to correctly identify which was the bone, which was the species, and between 94 and 90% of the total of anatomical structures that indicate in the piece were correct. So it is considered in this item within the advanced level, and your average grade is 92 points. If in the exam, the student has to make this identification in 4 bones, so 4 times this item of the rubric will be evaluated. Regarding syntopic identification, that is the second line, if the antimer is correct, but in the identification of the bones that make up the joints associated with that piece, his answer showed 4 errors in the description. So in this item, the rubric had a 40 performs, which averages 55 points. In the third and last item of evaluation, if the student had the capacity of simple anatomical clinical association, setting some anatomical evaluation that can be instituted for some form of diagnostic imaging, it is classified as a median and has an average grade of 70 points. The last item is linked to detailed anatomical and clinical discussions to be presented in theoretical and practical classes. All the items have the same weight, so the final average of the student will be 73 points. In order for students to understand all these details, the first placement, as I said, of the rubric will be done in a formative manner, which is not to worth a grade, just for the students can understand how occurs, how its operation. The answers to be evaluated within the rubric will be collected via Google Form, which in this image I bring you an example of a form that will be worked out formatively. When the practical classes return, the practical study will be intensive, and the students will be summatively evaluated by the rubric that they already know. For a new form developed by the pedagogical team of the discipline associated with the assembly of practical tests of the same structures that are contained in the form. The results by each student will be launched in a special form created from the rubric itself, and with that, the final evaluation of the student's performance will be defined. So, all this change in the way of evaluating has a main justification: the fact that the students aren't attending laboratory sessions, aren't manipulating cadavers and anatomical parts, aren't studying anatomy in its paper form. So with this, It is possible for students in this period of great change to develop new skills, new strategies for really seek to learn in a different format. And the student knows how the assessment is made with this new form of assessment and why they receive a certain grade. The use of rubrics clarifies to the professor the real needs of their students and bring him closest to the reality, as well as establishing a possibility for developing different pedagogical skills. But above all, for both, this period can serve to realize the importance of being close. So I want to thank the students who, even taught distance, did not give it up, diving into the amazing universe of anatomy. Thanks to the supportive pedagogical team for their tireless assistance within this new proposal, represented here by students Barbara and Louise, and my gratitude for everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that nice presentation. We'll go on to the next in just a minute and have questions later, but I forgot to mention two things early on this morning, that last weekend we had 300 throughout the participants throughout the presentations, and there are now videos of those, over 1,200 videos on the YouTube WAVA channel, and that link will be hooked up on chat today. So thank you very much for your understanding of our technical difficulties. And now I want to present to you Dr. Nong Inpanbutr from Ohio State, and she's going to talk about, I think it's very, very nasty, how we're going to make the move to 100% online. And with that, Dr. Nong, I don't see you.
Bob, I don't know if you have some questions for Dr. Tomar or Dr. Werner.
Yes?
Before? I don't know.
Okay.
Hello. It's a great pleasure to have you all here in this event. My name is Laila, and we have some questions from the attendants. And the first of all is to Tomar, Professor Tomar. How do you intend to deal with the students in the lab out of the class hours? How many students will be allowed to use the lab at the same time to handle the specimens?
Actually, there is no restriction about to use, and generally our classes are planned or scheduled as from Monday to Friday. So Saturday, on Saturday we don't have any scheduled class. So Saturday they can use our laboratories, all these specimens from 9 to 4, entire day, whatever times they want. Other than that, whenever, like, if any class is cancelled because of any reason, like the busy schedule of the teacher or any time, whenever they want to come, our museum as well as our laboratories, they are all open on all working days from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you. I guess we don't have more questions until now. So, Dr. Bob Henry, if you want to continue the presentations.
Okay, thank you. Our next presenter is Dr. Nong Inpanbutr from Ohio State, and she's going to be talking about the unthinkable, making the move to 100% online. Dr. Nong, can you hear me? I wonder if she's gotten knocked offline. I was knocked off twice during Laís's last presentation.
Dr. Nong?
So is,
I'm coming.
okay, good. For your presentation now, thank you.
Are you gonna ask me to share the screen?
Yes, please.
Hold on.
Good.
Do you see my slide?
No, we see you.
Hold on.
Marco, do you want to walk her through what, where to hit?
Actually, I tried to put my slide out here and hold on. Sorry, I should be here.
Okay,
Let me try one more time.
you are sharing your screen, and then you can go to the PowerPoint. Yeah.
Do you see it now?
Now,
Yes.
perfect.
I go the different way. This is the hello everyone, and let me find my oops. That's my slide now. This is a pretty okay. Sorry, bear with me for 1 minute. Okay, I'm on. Are we good now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for the technology glitches, which I told my students is going to happen, and I demonstrated that.
Good.
First of all, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this world. I would like to thank WAVA and the leadership of Dr. Sampai and the whole organization for organizing this. It's so timely that we need it. And I think this is what Dr. Henry said, that it's going to present a new opportunity, or we are forced into. So these are the team of our anatomy teaching program. I'm going to go over in a minute here. So like the second author here is the educational design, also computer technology, and Dr. Reed is our associate dean. Mr. Fraser is also instructional designs. The rest of the team are anatomists, distinguished anatomists, and the last person, Dr. Gonya, who is the director of Office of Teaching and Learning, which is brought in all the information and the background and help support us in this transition. So I would not read the title because Dr. Henry said it's kind of scary. So I will let you look at it, but all my distinguished team. So where is Ohio State University? It is in Columbus, Ohio, and we call it the home of the Buckeyes. And I'm very honored and proud to say that Dr. Bob Henry is also our alumnus there. So the Buckeyes, which is in Ohio, at the central of the state here, we consider ourselves kind of in between the Midwest and the East. And here is Lake Erie. So we are capital city of Columbus. Columbus, Ohio, a citizen of, for Ohio, about 10 million, and in Columbus is about 1 million. Now let's move to anatomy. So before the COVID came, the anatomy teaching program at Ohio State is traditional teaching, I would say that. We have a normal class size of 162, but this year somehow we have 172. We have a team of 7 instructors. So for the core courses for gross anatomy, in the fall semester, which is I'm a team leader, the anatomy one is a 3.5 credit using dog as a model. And then we do draw into cats wherever differences exist. And in the spring semester, which is the Anatomy 2, is a 4 credit hours using horses as a model. And my team member here, Dr. Jerry Masty, is the team leader of this course. And they have the comparative to food animals here as well. So the experience in the past would be for Anatomy 2, because in the middle of the semester, we were asked to move to online. So Dr. Masty had to scramble a lot, and I will not talk about that because this time I'm going to talk about our plan or what we have done, which actually started last week. So we have a lot to learn. Now, before the COVID, the traditional program that we have, we meet on Tuesday and Thursday with the all face-to-face delivery, regional approach, and then each region we wrap up with a case study, which I'm going to walk us through the new model, that how it is panned out. So 1 hour of lecture and 2 hours of dissection lab to follow. 4 students per table, and so the students per table and per cadaver. We use a dog, as I said. So this is the timeline when COVID came. We were called to a meeting by Associate Dean, Dr. Emma Reed, who is a strong support of the program. So mid-April, we were told we better prepare for the fall semester, that we may have to do something differently, probably either online or hybrid, whatever. And then in May, we had a meeting every week, weekly meeting from 1.5 to 2 hours. That was exhausting. We met until the last week before school started. So we go through the format, the redesign, the CBVE framework, mapping, and processing going on. So you can see here is a long process. We finished it until a week before school started. Now, with the background before the COVID, what helped lend us to the in the way, the confidence that we can do it was that the college began to work on the curriculum redesign, which is based on the CBVE. So the CBVE stands for Competency-Based Veterinary Education. So we are moving toward that direction anyway. So once when we are forced into this COVID, then we try to move toward the direction, make the change so that next year we don't have to do a lot of changing again. And then last year, we had 2 students with formaldehyde allergies. The AAVA list probably remember when I asked questions about, the experiences. And so that provides us the opportunity to learn, because we have to present to the student the mix, the online, and the multimodality delivery. The good news, students are doing okay, one is doing very good. So then how do we approach our redesign to the online? Decided that on the delivery model or the format of it, so how we're going to teach it. That took us a month actually, and went through 4 models. Then we revised the course goals and the outcomes to align with the CBVE. After that, we mapped the overall course, the sequencing, the structures, and the assessment strategy. But everything here is kind of changed because every week the university come down to the announcement next and next, because the COVID get worse. And then we map the module that is going to be talked about here, which is based on or according to the 5E, and I will go over the 5E in a minute. Then we decided on format and the assessment. Move forward here then. As I said, we went through 4 models here. And just pretty much what we decided, the lecture has to be online, synchronous, but then now we have to move to asynchronous because of the scheduling. The lab would divide into 2 groups, and you can read this on the past of all our models that we have designed. I think I'm not going to go over it because I want to save time for what we do now. And then during this time, we went then to the lecture to asynchronous, and then lab in person. And then we were told the next week, okay, then we moved to essential lab only. And then all of these have been going on. We were forced to think about the benefits and the risks. So finally, a month later, my team finally voted yes to this model. And what happened is that we're going to maintain our regional approach with the asynchronous portion, mean that the lecture and the dissection lab demonstration will be pre-recorded and posted online for them. And then the synchronous portion, which is happening on Tuesday and Thursday, this would be the virtual laboratory and the office hours. So how do we do it? The students are supposed to learn the materials on the asynchronous, mean the recorded lecture and lab demonstration before. So when we come to the virtual lab, we have all students together using Zoom, the synchronous Zoom, all together in the room. So we make all the announcements necessary and the updates, which we had a lot to say already for the first week. And then we break them out into 7 rooms. So in the 7 rooms, about 24 students are put in with each faculty or instructor. So help them identify the structure, visualize, answering any questions, providing guidance, watch the video together, or whatever the materials that the instructor would prepare to help them learn. Now, the office hour is the synchronous Zoom again. The instructor who lecture on this unit or this module would then hold an office hours to answer any questions that students might have or discuss whatever happened. So it's the 2 sessions open. It's like students can drop in or they don't have to come. The first week, we didn't have many students drop in yet. So the assessment, then we decided that intentionally, we're going to move more of the assessment to formative. So from last year, from 14 to 41 here. And then the summative is about 60%. So this is what we agree on. Now, the design that based on the 5E model that I mentioned earlier, which is the kind of aligned with the CBVE framework. So we have the first E is the engage. So this one is share experience and existing knowledge that they might have. So hopefully when we are in person, this is the one that I always ask students when I teach the region that what experiences do they have with that region, like if it's a thoracic limb, something happened to your dogs, your cats, and yourself. So then we discuss that later. Explore. This part here is the assignment and activities. So they gain base for the knowledge, for the core content. Actually, they have to look at the core content or the explain. So the core content here is the pre-recorded lecture and the lab demo, as I mentioned earlier. And then extend. The extend is using a case study discussion to wrap up the module that they learn. And then evaluate. End up with, they have weekly quizzes, which is a formative type. And in the end, they would have the exam. Now, this is the sample of the module that I have here. So we have additional resources, which I'm going to go about what we have there. And you can see virtual anatomy is one of the major resource that we use, which is from Colorado State. And Dr. McGee talked about that. And this program probably the one that make us feel confident that we will have enough resource for our student. And you saw her program last weekend. So in a module here, you will see the module 1 is a thoracic limb. So these are the section that we break down like osteology, extrinsic muscles, intrinsic muscles. Then they practice on the activities such as like the H5P. So they work on their own. These are points attached to each activities. And then we have the discussion board, which is this one is actually works out very well, very lively. Students just participate and they help themselves learn. That is our goal as well. And then end the week with the weekly quiz. Now, this is just the example to show you how is the week started. Is that this is my colleague, Mr. Fraser, who is the first lecturer here. And so he did the introduction. Then we have a roadmap, which is kind of like a lecture note or like a whole picture of what they're going to see in this module. And then they have we have the recording video of the lecture posted, and all the additional resources. They can also see the PowerPoint that he used. For the then at the end, we wrap up with a case study. The case study actually have been done. I started since I went to teach or had the a chance to teach at Cornell University for 1 semester as a visiting scholar, and learned that by giving them case, it really changed the students' mind. The questions that students had for me since they have a case is changed. So this is what we do. And then if they click at the exam room here, they would see or the kind of vignette, just like the real case. And if they click the radiograph, they would see this. And with the case study, then we normally discuss this in class at the end of each region. And my colleague, Dr. Jeff Reiswick, he is a practitioner. So he brings in his expertise of real life practice. So we discuss the case together, and any team member can participate. This is the example of slides that I try to draw attention to or relate it back to anatomy that they learn. So then we have the learning resources for students. Of course, they would need a lot of resources here. We have the virtual anatomy, which we assign them to look at every module. Lecture notes, which is actually lecture notes is from previous years, just provide it there so that they can see the whole picture of each region or each module. We have radiographs, a case study, the dissection video from the lab demonstration. This one is just pretty much kind of identified. And then it's also videos with narration, which I have made for over a decade with my team. And then the dissected image and book. But the very important resource here is also peer tutoring program. This one not only help them learn a material, but it's also mentally help mentor the first year and put their mind at ease. I found that very important part here. Future direction. This is my thoughts. Everything that we do, we have to have a vote from the team member to majority to get everything passed. So my thinking is that we're probably going to continue to use the design using the 5E model, continue provide pre-recorded asynchronous, utilize the in-person time for the discussion for the higher learning, And then the dissection will remain, but not in the same full length of the traditional format. Of course, we will modify and improve, after we learn from this semester. And also, I already learned a lot from colleagues that talked for this past 2 weeks, past week and this week. So we'll see how it goes. Now, the COVID came because the videos that I made with the team is for teaching in our program. That's the regional approach. Then it's for self-directed learning or provide as a multimodality. Start with complicated anatomical structures. Some of you have seen that. We presented in Canada and also at the YGVA. And then fully narrated with diagrams and concepts. And with caption as well, the English caption to comply with the accessibility. This is just quickly, we did a studies and survey for the students, from the students. The blue is before they watch the video, the orange is after they watch, and see how it helped them, So this is a positive response that it helped them ability to identify and the knowledge of the structure. You can see the differences after they watch these videos. So that time we have all of these. You can look later. With the time, I think I have to move faster. So we actually, we started to try to put this on the website and make it the open access now. Starting, actually, I worked yesterday with my colleague, Mr. Jay Chow, and he is working so hard. If I have time, I'll show you the link, but the link is here. You can look at it and see whether it match with your program or benefit you and your students. Please use them. And I will add more videos as we go. But I'm going to pass... Yes.
Dr. Nong, 1 minute, please.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm going to pass a video, so I'm not going to show the video. But the questions from last weekend that I heard is that using ExamSoft for anatomy, I just want to tell you that we use the ExamSoft for our exams. And this is the paper that we published this year. So take-home message to take a team, a college to teach anatomy. We are lucky to have a good supporting from the administrator, the OTL, and the technical resources, the infrastructure, the passion, and many more. So thank you for your attention. And I made it, Dr. Henry.
Thank you. Yes, you did. Very good. Thank you.
Right on time. Okay, I should stop sharing now. I did, okay.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Nong, for the amazing presentation and to share these resources with us online in the website of the Ohio State University. And now we are going to move for the next presentation, and then we will have Dr. Catrin Rutland. She's Associate Professor of the University of Nottingham, UK. And she's the representative of the young generation of veterinary anatomists for the European Association of Veterinary Anatomists. And she will talk about a number of novel situations and topping the league tables. Then, Catrin.
Thank you very much. I'm just sharing my screen, and I'm hoping that you can see my presentation now and hear me okay.
It's okay.
Thank you. So yes, my talk is about a number of novel situations and topping the league tables. So just a little bit of background first to the University of Nottingham. We have quite a combined way of teaching from day one. So we have, it is combined in both clinical terms from day one and also information technology from day one. So traditionally we have had all of our lectures, all of our practical notes, all of our small group teaching, all on Moodle virtual learning environment. And usually we put these up at least 7 days in advance. Nearly all of our lectures are recorded already, so that's a bit of background to Nottingham and how we teach. And usually we use a systems-based module approach. So, for example, we would teach anatomy, histology, embryology from day one in the first, second, third and fourth years. And then in year 5, the students would mostly be out on rotation. So on the 18th of March, we actually transitioned to remote teaching, remote pastoral care and assessment. Everything went remote. And this was before the UK actually went into COVID lockdown. The university decided that it was too unsafe, really, to carry on face-to-face teaching. So we literally went one day from teaching in person, and the next day we went to teaching online. We have about 165 students per cohort, and in an interesting twist for Nottingham, we also started our dual intake system this year, whereby not only do we have first year starting in September as usual, but also a new first year intake, again of around 150 to 165 students, starting in April. And this year they started on April the 1st, which in Britain is April Fool's Day. But so we had to contend with not only having our students who had already started going online, but these brand new students who had never been to university, most of them, starting their online classes from the 1st of April. And then on the 27th of July, we had been completely online teaching, and we transitioned just for these new first years into both in-person teaching and remote teaching, so a blended approach. We were the first university school back to in-person teaching in the whole of the UK, so that got a little bit of interest as to how we were going to do that safely. And this is how a sort of fairly traditional week for us would look for each of our year groups. Actually, this was Easter Bank Holiday Monday, which isn't that traditional, but we would start with, on Tuesdays, small group teaching, where the students are taught and guided in small groups. In the afternoon, they would have 3 hours of practical. And then on a Wednesday, for example, a couple of lectures, small group teaching, and then going through a case study. Most of Thursday is devoted to practical sessions. And then on a Friday, they would have a combination of lectures and what we call wrap-up, which is a really good opportunity for the students to ask questions, and we give mini quizzes. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to continue that same way of learning, but online. So we moved everything across to Moodle, our virtual learning environment. And here where you see speech bubbles, these are some of the comments, and I won't read them out, but some of the comments that our new first years have given throughout our teaching. So far, they've all been positive. They've reacted very positively, but just some of the things and ideas that they've come up with. So, as I said, already we put everything onto our virtual learning environment. All of our students actually get a laptop computer, and we've had this since the vet school opened a few years ago. And this actually made moving on to the computer environment relatively easy, in that all the students had that laptop computer. And of course, staff were mostly technology enabled as well. We did have some emergency internet dongles for staff that didn't have internet at home, and we have given staff and student training throughout. And the new April cohort, our new April first years, of course, may not have used this technology. And they actually became very reliant on Teams, which we used a lot as well to give live lectures. So live lectures, most of them were actually given on Teams, and we used a bit of a blended approach of not only giving our normal PowerPoint presentation lectures, but also trying to include, for example, our own animals that we had at home. And here's Emma Drinkle with mouse and a 3D printed skull, trying to give some comparative anatomy and topographical anatomy. And here's Professor Sarah Freeman, one of our equine vets, working, as you can see here, with an iPad and showing not only anatomy, but also some clinical work such as bandages and so on. And so this method was really enjoyed by the students. They liked the fact that, for example, we had skeletons at home, we had animals at home that we could try and explain, for example, movement of the joints and where the various bones are. And sometimes we use Adobe Connect as well, which was quite good. It was useful for sharing videos and being able to do little quizzes. And on rare occasions, we also used Zoom. Zoom was more predominantly used for public lectures that we give. And so here, of course, we used, for example, a lot of pictures, which are quite useful. Our small group teaching is quite important at Nottingham, and usually the students will sit, as you see here, in a room together, and they will work their way through a PowerPoint presentation or something similar, where they have to talk about cases or talk about anatomical terms, talk about sort of clinical problems. And usually there's a staff member, we can see Professor Julia Kidd here, in with them to just guide them through. And actually we've carried on with this small group teaching remotely as well. Each group gets together and they are facilitated by a member of staff, all on Teams. And we found that questions, polls, conversations and quizzes have really been an integral part of lectures and practical sessions that we've given. It keeps the students engaged, it allows the students to ask questions at any time. We also use techniques normally, for example, using Twitter as a place where students and staff can talk about various things. What we've found when we're trying to work on our practical sessions is we've kept the practical sessions the same, but quite often, of course, like many of you, we've had to use models. So here, simply with a towel, Dr. Richard Payne was trying to show the brain. Here's me bringing science from the sofa, with a heart, actually, which was given to me by Professor Claudia Wushring. And so we've tried to do different things to keep the students engaged. You know, whenever you're talking about a bone, it's just useful to have the bone in front of you and be able to point out the different things. So we found that has helped a little bit. We've also found that using the Google Jamboard has been quite useful. Sadly for us, it's only available for up to 50 people at any one time. So with our class size being 150 to 165, sometimes we have to set up several Google Jamboards. But you get a screen like this and it's completely free to use. And for example, we can show prosection, dissection pictures, ask the students to label things themselves. They can put little sticky notes on it. So we find that this is really, really interactive. They can draw. We can use radiographs, and we can generally just explain movements and where structures are. So we've tried to use a combination, especially for our practical sessions, of using prosections live, of course using live and video dissections that we and other people have already carried out. We've used our own live animals where we can, and actually we've used a lot of everyday objects. So, for example, even using a ruler to show cross-section of blood vessels, and other everyday objects such as that. We've used a lot of 3D printed objects, so you can see a little oscordis here, and we can see sections through the skull and the brain here of Mouse the dog with Emma. We've used a lot of our models and skeletons. And we've also found that using tiny little videos that we've made, lasting maybe just 30 to 40 seconds within our practical sessions and within our live lectures have been really useful. The students seem to enjoy those, and it breaks up the teaching sessions quite a lot. One thing we've had a problem with is access to resources on occasion. Normally we have, of course, the library, and each of our small group teaching rooms has a range of the books in case the students can't afford books. So those, of course, haven't been available easily, but we have been going online where we can, but also trying to find different resources. So finding the textbooks has sometimes been challenging for our students. But of course, there are many interactive and visual opportunities online. A few years ago, we finished our own School of Veterinary Medicine museum, where we labelled every single specimen that we have, and we have little quizzes where the students have to drag and drop to try and name things, which is great for revision. We have what we call MooTube, which is videos of dissections, videos of cesarean sections, all sorts of things that can help us teach online as well. And in addition to that, we've also given our new first years some online 3D orientations of the building and laboratories to actually get them used to what the school looks like before they appear. It just has seemed to calm their nerves down a little bit by being able to see the laboratory, dissection laboratory online, for example, and what it looks like. Dr. Emma Drinkle also collated lots of online resources. She was already doing this, actually, as part of a project that she was working on. And these are worldwide. And these have been shared in a Google Doc. And so certainly within EAVA, we've been sharing this and adding to it. The Google Doc is mainly in English language, just because, of course, it has been Emma and Nottingham leading on this. But actually, resources in any language can be added as long as they're freely open for anyone to use. So please feel free, anybody, to add to this or look at it. It's just a really easy way of looking, and it has anatomy, embryology, histology, and actually lots of pretty much everything that we can find on teaching veterinary students. And another thing that we've tried to do, just to change things a little bit, is we've encouraged 3D visualization, and that's the students creating their own visualization at home. So, for example, we offer a separate non-credit art and anatomy module. It's really purely for enjoyment. And this is an example of one of our students, Amy, has created some models at home and to help her with her revision. And we even encouraged them to do things like making a cake. And this was an example from previous years, actually, because we normally have a cake competition. But it's just used as a memory aid. It's active, it's enjoyable, practical, helps the students with their visualization, but also helping with stress. In Britain, we've had one of the highest loads of COVID. We hit about 5,000 cases a day at one point. And a lot of our students and staff actually were managing with the death of loved ones and friends. So helping with stress actually at this stage was really, really important. Our students have drawn, done cross-stitch, made little woolly hearts, and all sorts of things, really. We've also used things like colouring atlases to supplement their learning. And just recently, we've also brought in lots of these animal models where these students can paint and draw on, use them for anatomical knowledge. And this has particularly been used as we've gone into blended in-person learning. And then we've also used some fun websites such as iHeartHisto. Of course, we have to guide them through learning, but it is fun for them, and lots of quizzes and general support and tutorials. So we found that in general, they followed the programme really well, and we've given extra sessions of support and times where we can they can ask us questions. We've also added in several things such as a breakfast club and Meet Me, where the students can learn more about us, social quizzes, competitions, and even barbecues. And we've given them extra lectures when they've needed them. and remote counselling, wellbeing and tutoring. This is just a little example of a competition we ran on photographs of animals, wildlife, really just for a bit of fun. Of course, our assessment has also gone online. We have generally been quite good previously with being online anyway. Most of the students sat their exams on computers within the university. And we have our own system already called Rogo, where we've got lots of different question types that we can include, including graphics and videos. So that's really useful. And so we allowed the students to take these exams at home, and we just asked them to not cheat, basically, but we made them open book exams. And of course, we've also managed to continue with research projects and our postgraduates, all of whom have been trying to work from home as the laboratories have been shut as well. So we've been topping the league tables in a few different ways at Nottingham and in the UK. COVID forced us to teach online as the country shut down. Most people were only allowed out for 1 hour of exercise per day for several months. And now we're beginning to open up, but it's very, very difficult to get everybody back to university. So Britain was highly affected by COVID, but during this time, when we asked students for their evaluation of our teaching, they really gave us pretty much the top scores they've ever given us. In fact, I think they appreciated that we tried to go online, we went immediately, and we tried to be really enthusiastic about our teaching. And then also during lockdown, we found out that the vet school, Nottingham Vet School, had topped the National Student Survey, which is a really important survey in our country. Students often choose their universities using this survey, and we came out as the best vet school, which was really pleasing for us. But now we're back to blended remote and in-person teaching. So most of our lectures and small group teaching will remain online, but some of our practicals will actually be in person. In smaller groups, we of course are having social distancing, and we are preparing the students that came back in July. We've been COVID testing those that have COVID testing every week, and of course the staff. We still have lockdown risks. Our numbers are going back up of COVID cases, and we have local lockdowns, one of which is just a few miles actually from the vet school. So it might stop, for example, both students and staff from actually being able to come in person to teach. But we're all looking forward to actually being able to do at least some of our practicals in person. So overall, the students have been really receptive. They've really thrown their all into it. They're better at us than the technology quite often, but we're getting used to the technology. Some of the students were saying the corona vets are going to become the most resilient vets you've ever seen, and actually that might be the situation. And just as a final thought, we've also tried to continue a lot of our outreach for children and the public. So here are some little examples of papers that we've written and trying to explain DNA. So we've tried to carry on with that sort of work too. So I just want to say thank you really to everybody at the vet school. It really has been a combined effort trying to continue teaching all of our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Catrin, for that very nice presentation. I think we'll go on to our next final presentation before our question and answer session with Dr. Steve Lampa from the West Coast out at Washington State University, almost at the coast. And he's going to talk about teaching anatomy during the pandemic and a view from the west side of the United States. Dr. Lampa.
Is it presenting?
Yes, good.
Okay. Volume's good. Okay. So good morning, afternoon, evening. This is a great opportunity. I thank the World Association of Veterinary Anatomists for inviting me to present this. I'm going to just kind of give a little narrative of what we went through this spring and just kind of give you the timeline, talking about some challenges and opportunities that we got out of the teaching in this new way. So, So Washington State University is, like Dr. Henry said, it's in the western part of the United States. We're on the border of the state of Washington. It's a very small town. It's a very university-centric town. This is a picture of part of our campus. So the statement of the problem, right? So the COVID-19 shutdown of face-to-face teaching anatomy, right? This is what we're all discussing, and I really appreciate everybody's thoughts from all over the world. This is a shared situation. So in the spring in 2020, I was one of the faculty involved in teaching our large animal anatomy course to 92 first-year vet students. We're primarily a lab teaching course. We don't have any lectures. We have a lot of really great hands-on specimens. We don't really have anything that we had developed for online learning. In March, we only had 5 weeks of content left to teach. We were notified basically on March 13th of 2020 that all first year College of Veterinary Medicine teaching was moving online after spring break. That's basically 9 days. So we needed to have some online learning modules and opportunities for year one College of Veterinary Medicine students. So what do you do in this short window? First of all, you kind of say, I can't do this, right? It's like, this is going to be impossible. So what does a normal spring look like in the last 5 weeks? We do comparative anatomy of the equine, the bovine, and it's on the topics of the abdomen, highly three-dimensional, the pelvis, reproductive structures, really three-dimensional, the skull, right? So unique and so different. And then we have live animal palpation exercises. And all of these topics, like I said, are really learned on hands-on learning activities in our laboratories, because that's one of the greatest strengths that we have at Washington State is amazing facilities. So how do you in a little more than a week get an online curriculum ready to teach all of those topics? That's the story I'm going to tell you. So what are the challenges, right? So how do you guide the students? How do you get them to that point where you want them to be at the end of that to reach the curricular goals? We didn't really have any quality image resources, right? There isn't a ton of large animal anatomy videos and even links. You know, the virtual anatomy program from CSU, its strength is small animal anatomy. The large animal anatomy isn't as good. We'd already finished the limbs, and the limbs are probably some of the better things on different resources. What's the appropriate method of delivery, right? What's too many resources versus too few? And in the time constraint, how can we best provide these resources and outcomes for these year one students? And then also, will the students actually have the appropriate technology to access this? So I showed you where Washington State is. We have students from all over the country. Students left for spring break. A lot of them didn't come back. Some of them are in places where their internet connections may not be great. Their family, where they'd be staying, they may not have the the best facilities to study, etc. But, so you have challenges, but then what are the resources you can leverage, right? Well, the nice thing is they had already completed almost 3/4 of a year of gross anatomy. So they'd had Anatomy of the Dog, which is our fall semester course. They also had had a lot of the horse and cow anatomy, at least through the thoracic and pelvic limbs, and a little bit of thorax. So I'm going to talk about a project or a resource we use called Top Hat, and our students are already familiar with that, and I'll show you a couple examples of how we use that. We have excellent quality of specimens. We have amazing pro-sections. We have amazing prepared specimens that we do our own embalming. Our faculty is really good at dissecting, so we have actually some really excellent dissectors. And we also had a dissection guide that we could actually modify into a different format. Our laboratory support, though small, is excellent. And the nice thing is the state of Washington actually declared us essential workers. So we could actually come in and do this during this window. So what was our plan, right? What did we need to prepare? So we needed to have online and organized resources using both our LMS and then we chose to use Top Hat. And Top Hat is basically it started as an audience response system, but now you can actually add slides, you can add images, you can add text in ways that are where you can have questions, right? So that's something that we leveraged, is our students could use Top Hat. So cadavers needed to be dissected and narrated for large animal anatomy structures. We needed to edit and download these videos and images. That actually took a long time based on the size of the images, the size of the videos. So we actually fell on very short, highly descriptive videos. And then what we ended up making was what we call an augmented dissection guide, which basically gave them things that they should look at, but then we included short videos. And some of these videos were actually mentioned by Dr. Rutland previously, that there are some things on YouTube. Peabody DVM actually has some pretty nice videos, but we couldn't get the image quality we wanted, so we actually did some of our own. And then we made this augmented dissection guide, but also we had self-assessment activities, which were basically Top Hat quizzes, and then we had to publish it, right? So that's what a week looked like when we were doing this. So this is our first attempt. This is the quality of our cadavers, which is really nice. This is basically just captured with an iPhone 11. We recorded on iPhone 11s and took pictures and took pictures on iPads as our first attempt. They had their benefit in that it was easy to handle, but also the problem was the iPhone 11 was actually people's personal devices, and our universities said we should probably use university resources. But we used iPhone 11 or iPads and to capture some of our first attempts to do that. And the images and videos were used in our augmented dissection guide, our self-assessment questions, as well as our high-stakes assessment, which is our summative assessments that we had twice during the online period. We have a Wolf-Eye camera, high-definition camera, that we can actually obtain some still images and videos of smaller structures. An iPad was better for actually doing structures in large full-size cadavers, but in isolated heads like this equine head, the Wolf-Eye was actually really good for getting the details and resolutions on the equine. So our learning activities and assessments, again, I said we actually did these in Top Hat. So students would have, obviously, they'd have a weekly objective, but then we tried to have assessment questions really that lined up with those objectives. So this was another way that we wanted to make sure that the students were staying on track based on what we wanted them to know and how we wanted them to go through that material. So at the end of the semester, all students pass the course, which is always, and so in the States, that's the way, right? We have a semester basis. The average wasn't significantly different from any of the years before. The overall experience, I would say, is a success, but a little bit stressful. But here's some actual summative feedback that we had, that if students rated this on a scale of 1 to 10, the move to online learning, how would you rate the delivery of the course? And compared to other first-year courses, which is neuroanatomy, physiology, so we had pretty good ratings as far as how well it was received, you know. So so that's our summative feedback. Some formative feedback was they liked the short. What we had was we put them into Panopto videos. We had weekly interactive guides. They liked that. Providing the content that was new content and not pre-recorded. That was something that was actually important to them. They liked the links of the quality resources that we use, both the virtual animal anatomy that Christiana McGee and her team provided for free. And then University of Minnesota site. They liked, again, the Top Hat questions for self-assessment. We gave them very explicit instructions, and that's something I've been hearing from a lot of people. You really need to tell them what they're doing. We did have live Zoom question and answer sessions during the normal lab time. So all of this was done asynchronously. That's one thing I didn't mention. But we did have some synchronous question and answer sessions. We had open note exam time format, because we decided we couldn't control what the students were going to do. We told them it was timed, so they were about 45-minute to 80-minute exams, depending on if it was the final versus a smaller exam. They didn't like that they missed they lost the three-dimensional relationships. They needed more explanation. They would email, they'd ask Zoom questions, but still, it wasn't all there. Some of them would have liked more videos in more areas like the reproductive system. They'd like longer videos, which we couldn't download as quickly and they weren't as accessible. Sometimes the assessments, they had a hard time with either the pictures or the images we used. The skull anatomy, again, the three-dimensional nature, and they needed more explicit instructions. I thought we were being pretty explicit. So now what are we doing? So actually WSU, we got approved to be the only part of the institution that actually has some face-to-face instruction with PPE. So we are using prosected specimens. We only have about 24 students in our laboratory at any one time, out of a class of 96 this year. We have, right now, we've completed the first week of class. We had eight cadavers that are prosections and 3 students per cadaver. We still have the students using online resources like the virtual canine, VIN, carnivore dissection. That was really popular, and we got some students to work with us this summer and help find resources. Again, it's organizing, it's presenting them using in Top Hat. Where do you put them in your LMS? And all of our lectures will be online synchronous on Zoom, but the students aren't required to be there watching the lectures. This is just an example of the first week of class. This is an osteology day, right? So this is our bone day. You can see the students have masks, PPE. So they'll have a face shield plus KN95 masks. And they're on osteology days, they're in groups of 2 at tables. We couldn't have done this without having some technologies already in place and actually knowing how to use them, right? So the things that TopHat is a really excellent program. It's pretty easy to use. It's easy for students to access on multiple devices. We were using Blackboard at the time, so that was the product. Now we're using Canvas. The Wolf system is really an excellent high definition camera. It takes very good images. Panopto is what we're recorded with. Zoom was for both synchronous and asynchronous discussions that we would have with students. The online resources, again, University of Minnesota, the ungulate dissection was totally useful for the last 5 weeks. Thank you again to the people at CSU for allowing us to use the virtual animal anatomy program. In the large animal, it wasn't quite as good as it would have been if we were doing a small animal anatomy course. And but those are both excellent resources that we're continuing to use. And again, I said we have a small staff, right? We only have 2 people that are really helping us with those dissections. Our large animal teaching faculty for those 92 students were Dr. Brady Gillespie, Lane Wallet, and myself. And then again, our 2023 first-year vet students that we couldn't have done, that they were pretty open to what we were doing. And then that's Washington State's campus on a spring day. And again, thank you so much for inviting me to give this talk.
Thank you.
And with that,
thank you, Dr. Lampa. And then we can go to the questions. Then, Laila, we have some questions for the presenters.
Yes, we have a lot of questions. First of all, I want to thank you for your wonderful presentations. The attendants are writing on the chat that they really enjoyed the presentation, and they also have a few questions. We have a question for Professor Nung. Dr. Simon asked, for which platform does she use for the case study? Since may need some discussion among the students.
For the case study, we post it on our platform. Our platform is the Carmen Canvas. And then we have videos. This is normally discussed in the class. But now we have to do the discussion with videos and post it there. So everything is done on the platform of Carmen Canvas.
Thank you, Doctor. We have one more question for you. Diego Carvalho asked, it's possible to have access to the models presented by Professor Nung? It's possible?
I think the slides should be made available from WAVA, don't we?
Yes, thanks.
Yes. So the answer is yes then. And also the link to our website, which is we use the media site. You can check on the link to access the videos.
Thank you. We have a question for Dr. Catrin. Dr. Rutland Sinya asked, Dr. Catrin, please tell how new students got admission in the first year in your university. Means through online and trace examination or offline pen paper mode and trace examination.
Yes, we have a national scheme where every student applying to any university has to fill in firstly an application form, and then if they get the predicted, we have the A-level grades at age 18, then we invite them to fill in an online questionnaire, which we've always carried out. Then we ask them to come for usually an in-person day at the vet school where they have an interview, normally a practical exam. So what we are able to do is, of course, put the interview now online, but the students for April were actually already chosen before COVID started, thankfully, so we didn't have to worry about that so much. But of course, some of our admissions, the interviews will have to probably move online.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Christian McGee asked to Dr. Catrin, do students at Nottingham all have the same type of device with preloaded software, or is devices requirement or provided by the program? Thank you.
Yeah, so until recently, we provided all of the students with the same laptop, with the same software, and that was given to them on their first day of veterinary school. More recently, we've given them all a voucher to spend a particular amount, but asked them to get a similar type of laptop and download particular software that's all freely available, which means that all students have access to the same type of computing availability and the software that they will use throughout the program.
Oh, thank you. Dr. Simon asked to Dr. Catrin too. May I ask to Dr. Catrin for more detail about how to Google Jamboard look like?
Absolutely. So I will try to present actually, because that's probably the easiest way of showing you.
Okay.
So I'm hoping now that you'll be able to see my Chrome, and on it, this is what Google Jam looks like. So if you, in Google, just type Google Jam, this is actually the first hit that you'll come up with, Jamboard. And you can see here that I've just created a mini board. And you can add little post-it notes, you can draw on it in little pens here and highlight different things that you want to do. The students can ask questions or anything like that, really. And yeah, so you could, for example, label items that you're looking at, move objects around. It's just a nice way. And actually what you can do is here, you can share the link. So if you click on share, it gives you a link and you can share it with your entire class. And all of the students can draw, they can move things around the screen. They can do anything like that that they want. So it's very interesting.
Oh, very interesting. Dr. Ashraf Saber asked to Dr. Catrin, have the actually anatomy museum in Hull is teaching anatomy under the situation we are facing now?
Oh, yes, the actual anatomy museum that we have in the building is absolutely vital. Of course, we have all our skeletons, our prosections, blood vessel corrosion casts and all of our individual bones. And all of us at the vet school have raided the museum. So just before we were sent home, we took lots of the museum home with us, and our poor husbands, wives, children and cats and dogs have had to put up with the anatomy museums being at home. And of course it's so important because it really helps to give some sort of 3D visualization during our lectures and during our practical sessions. And we've used that in combination, of course, with the online museum that we have at Nottingham, the online museums that we have around the world, and all of the different online resources from all the other amazing vet schools in the world. But yes, they have still been really, really valuable.
Yes, 3D models helps a lot to the students to understand. We have a question to Dr. Steve Lampa, and Karen asked, are students required to use KN95 mask versus cloth masks? How frequently are you suggesting the students replace the KN95 mask daily?
So our college bought masks for our students. And what we've been told is from the mask we have, the students get 36 hours out of a mask. And what we figure is a pack of 5 masks will last them for a semester of their face-to-face laboratory, which is anatomy and microanatomy and some surgical skills labs that they're able to do with PPE, but
Thank you. I guess we have no further questions for now. Teacher, Professor Sampaio, you want to say something?
Just want to see, I wonder if someone wants to say something and then discuss something. No? No? If you don't have any questions, I think that we can close the sections and then wait for tomorrow. Okay, then.
Thank you, everyone.
thank you. Hi, Noah.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Catrin.
Hi, nice to see you all.
Hi.
Before we close the section, I want to thank you, everybody, to take your time to the meeting. And we had fantastic presentations and share new resources and new ideas and for teaching anatomy in this difficult time. And then I would like to thank you, everybody, the presenters, the staff, the students that help us with the technical support, and Bob to divide with me the conduction of this section. And see you tomorrow. We are anxious to see what the presenters will present tomorrow for us. Okay, then.
Yes, thanks. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, support staff. You guys are great.
Yes.
Thanks for organizing such a good platform.
Thank you.